Oh, hello. I don't know what's happening, but we're live.
Is anyone there?
Person.
Hi, Eileen. Sorry, thank you for the prayers. And good morning, Johnny. So we're not Meriwether's personality. We're just filling in for him. I'm Mrs. Weather.
Good morning, Miss Tammy. Good morning. Ooh, Julia. Julie, Teresa. Miss Kathleen. Hello.
Senator. Hi, Senator. Hi, Gary. Thanks for joining us. Sorry we started off a little bit late. It's a new system that we're not used to doing, and we're both kind of camera shy. So you will be happy to know that Meriwether got off on his drive okay this morning. He is somewhere between here and Dallas right now, and we wish him Godspeed and hope that he makes his journey safely, and we're doing this to support him. We're doing okay. Thank you. Oh,
good morning. Oh, Mr. Skiff, hello.
Hi. Thank you for letting Mark take off like this. So our instructions were to so he gave us this list of like 16 steps of what we're supposed to do, and he actually narrowed it down because he did a lot of preset settings for stuff that we do, so we don't have to do quite as much. But yeah, and then he told actually for what we're on air, what were our instructions?
Just say whatever.
Yeah, so we hope that that's okay. We did have I'm trying to read the thank you for the prayers. Thank you, Donald. Hi, Joe. Is there anything in particular you would like us to talk about?
Sadly, we don't have a lot of plant information for you.
But so when we were discussing this, we came up with one topic. Really the only one topic. Well, originally Meriwether was going to do the show for Meriwether, and she wanted company. So I said, okay, I will help you, even though I'm even more of an introvert than Meriwether. The main difference is I'm a lot louder. So you can usually be able to hear me. I'll just be babbling and saying nonsense. On the other hand, Meriwether will say something really cool and insightful and in this beautiful voice, but you won't be able to hear it because she won't actually be moving her lips or using her lungs. Okay, thought about the bread wars. Okay, you want
the bread wars.
Okay, so the bread wars was the only thing that I could think of to talk about. So it sounds like you want to hear about the bread wars, so we'll go with that. I believe that you have heard about JoJo and sourdough, right?
Mojo, Jojo, whatever. All
okay, so when we started going into quarantine, Mark was interested in creating sourdough bread, and he'd had a history in growing up of having sourdough bread, of having Herman in the refrigerator. Meanwhile, quietly along in the background, I'd been making bread. Years ago, we had this thing called kids, and I stayed home. And suddenly, I hate to cook, but I was in charge of cooking. And so I started reading recipes because I was like, I have no idea what to do. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea how to cook. And in reading cookbooks, I ended up with things like cookbooks that had recipes for bread in them. And I kind of set that aside. I read them all. That's interesting. And then we started homeschooling. I'm like, oh my gosh, you want to talk about people who like are really into like doing everything by hand? Those are homeschoolers. And I thought, oh no, I'm a failed homeschooler unless I make my own bread. And I said, no, that's stupid. Homeschooling can be whatever you want. But anyway, I was still interested in the idea of making my own bread. And I tried it a little bit, you know, like just how like you try a recipe here and there. Total disaster. Like when I stopped making birthday cakes for the kids because it was just an absolute disaster. I just went to grocery store cakes until finally we could get Mamba Weather to take over the birthday cake industry here. But then we ended up having pizza. And so I started making pizza, and well, homemade pizza crusts ended up being a lot nicer. So what we did was I started making pizza crusts, and yes, am I going too long?
Homemade bread is
the best. Make pizza crust. And then I was at a garage sale, and I saw this $10 bread maker that would knead the dough for you. And I thought, yes, that's awesome. So I went and I got that $10 bread maker. And then later on, what happened is we got into preparedness and we ended up buying wheat. And so we had a bunch of wheat. Okay, well, what do you do with wheat? Well, it just sat there because we didn't have a wheat grinder. So I was like, okay, well, we need to get a wheat grinder. Okay, so I got a wheat grinder. And let me show you the wheat grinder. Let me show you the bread maker. Here's the bread maker.
She's very proud. Very proud.
So here's the bread maker. $10 garage sale.
Came formidable machine.
And it worked just fine, and it was great for kneading dough. And then we got wheat grinder. This is the wheat grinder that we got. It's the family grain mill. It actually did not come with the motor on the base. We got a hand crank version because we thought, oh well, we want to be prepared, and if we want to be able to take this camping, we can do that. Don't go with a hand crank, not unless you don't actually like making bread.
Well done.
But I actually went around with that, and we used mostly store-bought. And so I've actually been making bread for several years now. I've been making pizza crust from homemade flour, not homemade flour, but homemade pizza crust for going on at least 5 years. And then this was the big deal, is after we got, after Mark was laid off and we were trying to save on expenses, we're like, we have all this wheat. So one of the things we did was, okay, well, let's just start making more bread at home. And so we made bread, and I experimented with a lot of stuff. And then I found out that I really don't like the bread in the bread maker because it ends up really crumbly. And it's not this nice sandwich loaf that you can get.
Miss Julie Teresa asks, where do you get your wheat? I'm having a hard time finding it.
So my wheat, I go to the attic, and we have these big cans that we got from the Mormon cannery about 10 years ago. I don't know where else to get wheat. Sorry. Meriwether would know. I don't see it in the grocery stores. Sorry. You could probably Google it. Okay, so we got the wheat. We're grinding it. I started making rolls. The problem with making rolls is it takes a long time. And then, so we made rolls, and what I found out was people like the rolls. Oh, beprepared.com is a great place to get wheat. Right.
Thank you.
I'm babbling too much, aren't I?
You're talking a lot.
Okay, I'm telling you way too much backstory. This is my problem. Too much backstory.
Miss Ruth says hello.
Hi. Okay. So I've been making bread for years.
Oh no, Mr. Curtis.
I've been making bread for years.
Don't worry, it's happening to me too with all of her bread.
And then coronavirus happens, and then Mark says, hey, I'm going to make sourdough bread. I'm like, well, okay. I thought I've been making bread. I've been making rolls. And, I make rolls, and it's actually very rare for the entire roll to last, the entire batch to last overnight. Because I would make some, and then everyone would ask right after they got off the oven, are they ready? Can we have them? And I'd be like, no, these are for supper. And then they would eat them at supper, and everyone would get like 2 rolls because you can only make one small loaf in the bread maker.
I mean, what's my experience? Oh yeah.
Also, like, why do we need to make another? Why do we need another type of bread? Well, the answer was yeast, because my bread takes yeast, and yeast got to be impossible to find. But we'd been prepared, and we had these packets of yeast, the 1 pound vacuum sealed packets, and I actually had 2 of those. And I was like, well, I think we'll be okay, because you don't really how long it's going to last. And then I only use 2 teaspoons per loaf. So we used the first 1 pound packet, opened up the second one. It's getting about halfway there, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe we should give the sourdough thing a try. Well, I'll let Miniweather describe Mark's sourdough. Some of it was good, but some of it
turned out okay. After like a day, it got like the consistency of Jello. It was kind of weird.
Notice after a day, it actually sat there longer a day. My rolls would be done and eaten less than a day.
She lords this over Dad. But at one point, Dad tried making rolls, and let's just say they looked like white rocks and had about the same texture and consistency too. And so Dad kind of abandoned his attempts after that.
So that was one of the more extreme types. I mean, I think he was experimenting, and he doesn't have years of making bread. I don't know. But then the turning point for me was, I'm like, this takes so long. I'm trying to do all these other things. We found someone who was selling a Nutri-Grain mill. This thing is it's a beast. It's a Nutri-Grain mill. Let me go grab it.
She's even more proud of this mill. Ooh, she ran. Sounds like we have rippers, yeah. And here it comes. Could come out of Star Wars.
Okay, so yeah, it does look like a little Star Wars robot, doesn't it? This thing is huge. It's a beast. I still have not figured out where to put it, but this is what won the bread war.
Very dusty. As it should be, I guess, because it's
Now, I recommend getting one new unless you
Don't
save
get one.
money, because that costs more than the stand mixer used. So used, the grain mill cost more than my stand mixer did when the stand mixer was new. But the flour it makes is amazing. So
R2D2.
it does. We should like spray paint it. You can paint it.
I'll paint it.
When I was using the old grain mill, the hand crank one, after I put on motor, I found I couldn't get more than 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 2 cups of white flour, or the family wouldn't eat it. They wouldn't like it. It was just, yeah. The new one, let me see if I can show you the flour that it makes. So it's like as soft as white flour. Ooh. Like, you want to reach in and show some? Yeah, okay. Okay.
Oh. Thank you.
I wash my hands, but it's just powdery. It's soft and yummy and beautiful.
Not drugs, just flour.
But you can also see that it's really old. There's actually a crack in the side here, which means flour spews out when it's actually grinding, which really sucks. But it still works. And also, like, kind of like my scissors, I'm the only one that's allowed to use these.
I was surprised you let me touch it just now.
But the deal is now I can use all 100% whole wheat flour. There's no white flour in it. This is my 5-ingredient recipe. And the reason why I still have this bread, I did not make it today, but it was because I told people, no, you need to save the bread so that I can have some bread for the bread war. So,
for visual comparison, her bread, my father's latest bread. It's the mouse, but this is about what it looked like.
So okay, we can go. It comes into slices. It's got a little crust on it. The crust actually tastes good. Mama Weather doesn't like the crust.
Crusty.
So it's got this weird notch on it because that's the paddle from the bread maker, because I can actually cook it in the bread maker and it comes out decent now. That means I can put it in and then forget about it for 3 hours. So
someone recommended that for the
JB Weld. Is JB Weld food grade?
Good question.
So we can try that. Most of like now when I run it, and it's super fast. As I go and I put my hand on it right there, and I just hold it in place, and then my hand gets all floury, but at least it doesn't go all over the house.
Just slap some tape on it. But do you make herbed breads?
Do I make herb breads? So this is the difference. See, I'm not the experimenter. I'm not the researcher. I use my 5-ingredient recipe, and it works. I see no need to change it. Mark would be the one that would go around and would like change all these things and try this, and he actually makes a really good herb bread. A good artisan loaf. No, I don't think when he did that, did he do that with sourdough or with yeast?
Sourdough.
He did the artisan bread with sourdough? Okay, yeah, that one was really good.
He just took like a big ball of it, sat it in tissue paper, and then put it in a Dutch oven. Baked that up. Duct tape on the grass. That was my first solution.
Well, the problem with duct tape is I want to be able to wash it reasonably. But I don't know, we'll figure something out. So supposedly I could go on and I can order in other parts, but we'll see how it goes. We don't use it that often. I mean, there's still only 4 of us in here to eat the bread.
The daily grind.
No. How are we on time? Oh, okay. Are there any other questions?
Washing is overrated.
Washing is
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Gorilla Tape on the outside of the can will fix her. So it sounds like the consensus is to put tape on the duct tape or Gorilla Tape or some kind of thing on the side of the container.
There was this quote from this movie. It was like, if you use duct tape and it doesn't work, you're not using enough duct tape. So
Sherry Watson is asking, would you be willing to do a live and let us watch you make bread? So the way I make bread is I go and I just measure the ingredients into the bucket and I stick it in the machine and I walk away and forget about it. And then about 3 hours later, Mamba Weather says, aren't you making bread? And I'm like,
and she runs
oh yeah, I think I was. And then I think I'll go get that and I'll take it out of the bread maker. And then 5 minutes later, Mamba Weather's like, Mom, I took the bread out of the bread maker for you. And I'm like, thank you. And then she's like, can I slice it? And I'm like, yeah, just be careful to take the paddle out.
Big brain.
And then I walk back over there and like half the loaf is gone.
She's got the right.
If you wash it,
right
where
mindset.
Does the flavor come from?
I feel you. Above ground pool. Gorilla Tape.
Gorilla Tape.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds
so that's
formidable.
it. Yeah, I mean, well, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. We have no idea what we're doing, what we're talking about tomorrow. So
just make bread.
Okay. Well, like I said, it's 5 minutes of dumping everything in the canister, and then the rest is 3 hours later, and the show's only half an hour long.
Oh.
But so share us in your lookout for a bread maker. Yeah, I highly recommend looking at garage sales because I found that bread maker garage sale, $10. I look them at the stores and they're like, oh my gosh, they're like 70. And I've actually seen several of them, like at various Goodwills and stuff. But I'm like, why would I need 2 bread makers? I've got one that works.
I'm actually surprised she resisted getting them.
Well, this works. The other thing is, so there's a crack in the grain mill on the bread maker. There's also a crack on that. I don't know if can you see?
Even though the equipment may be on crack, we don't. It's just flour.
Okay. The reason why that happened is it used to live on our counter, except it started migrating. When I was turning it on, it would migrate when it was kneading, and it's fallen off the counter twice. And I said, okay, you clearly like the floor, and so let's just, you can live there now.
She, no pun intended, grounded it.
She says the dad jokes in the family. Oh, duct tape and Gorilla Tape are actually really well being washed. That's good. My 5-ingredient recipe. Okay, so here's the trick about my 5-ingredient recipe. It's a 5-ingredient recipe because I have 5 fingers and I have to count off the ingredients on my hand. There's actually more than 5 ingredients, but it started off as 5 ingredients and this is how I remember it. So the 5 ingredients are, I'm turning this backwards. Okay, flour, salt, yeast, butter, oil. Except that's how it starts out. The flour is actually the mixture of flour. So it used to be 1 cup of whole wheat, 2 cups of white wheat, and a tablespoon of dough enhancer. I've been able to change that down to 3 cups of whole wheat ground, and I still do the tablespoon of dough enhancer. Salt is a teaspoon of salt. Yeast is a tablespoon of yeast. Butter is, I eyeball this because I don't have a scoop that has measurements for butter, so it's between 2 and 3 tablespoons of butter. and 1 cup of water. And oh, I forgot the flour ingredient that also usually includes about a quarter cup of sugar too, because I have a sweet tooth. So I counted up, depending on which version of my 5-ingredient bread recipe, it can have up to 8 ingredients in it.
Someone actually asked, what will you do if you lose power?
If I lose power, well, my cell phone has a battery in it, and I can look up the app that says when power is going to return. I'm the city girl here.
She's very much a city girl.
So if we lose power in,
I bring out the big guns. You know what I'm saying? I just go ham on that.
If we lose power in a end of the world as we know it situation, well, we do have the hand crank, and it is possible to knead by hand the dough. And Mark's really good at creating fires, but I hope we don't ever come to that.
Dad still makes bread occasionally, but much less because I think he just doesn't have much time for it.
Because I won the bread war. Sorry.
Actually, using honey in the bread rather than sugar, it's smart.
Yeah, one of the recipes that I saw for this actually recommended using honey. I'm just used to using sugar, and besides, if I put in honey, it would change my 5-ingredient recipe. Right now, it's a 5-ingredient recipe. There's my flour and all the things that I stuck in as flour, and sugar counts as flour because it's a dry ingredient. But if I put in honey, honey's not a dry ingredient. I can't mentally think of it as a dry ingredient, but it doesn't lump well with the idea of my water is actually water and honey, or my butter is actually butter and honey.
I like the comment. I think I find this funny. Just fire. I agree. Fire. But yeah, if y'all ever seen the show Green Gables or whatever it is, Green Acres, that's what it is. This is basically how our household is. This is like the city girl, right? Glamorous, etc. And then you got Dad, who's like rustic farm man. Yeah.
So yeah, he likes things to be low tech, and I like things to be easy, which usually means higher tech.
So what's dough enhancer? People are curious.
Okay, dough enhancer. All right, let me run and get the pack of dough enhancer.
Tis dough steroids. Yo, what's and with an E? Oh no, I haven't. I should.
So dough enhancer is this thing that I saw at this homeschool convention, and it's by Nutrimil. And I never actually read the ingredients. I think it has like extra gluten in it, so you can't use it if you're celiac.
My dad makes the money, but she makes the dough.
Baking product. Let's see, what are the ingredients? Ingredients: whey, dairy product, lectin, soy powder, citric acid, yeast, sea salt, cornstarch, ascorbic acid. Oh, and there's honey in it. So stuff that's supposed to make the bread rise better, taste better, be more nutritious. Oh, so this one actually is a gluten-free blend.
It's definitely for the better there, Miss Tina.
Oh.
Definitely.
Okay. Anyway, it makes it nicer.
He already does some pretty crazy things with the stove. He'll like burn prickly pear thing, like the spines off on it and stuff. Even that's a little scary because he'll drop it sometimes, and we're all like, ooh. But
as long as he cleans up afterwards, that's fine. And if he makes it so that it is not clean upable after him, he can always buy me something nice. Like I got a piano out of that once, so I'm okay with him experimenting in the kitchen.
Oh no stove for fire.
No, see, I hate cooking so much that if he wants to make a mess in the kitchen, as long as he's cooking supper, it's okay. I don't even ask what's in the food. It's just food. Sometimes it's safer not to ask what's in the food.
Oh yeah. Piano story.
Piano story? Oh, okay. So this was the piano story. Mark tells these stories so much better than I can. So he's always finding food and experimenting with things that people think is not food, but that he wants to eat. And I don't remember what it was, but at one point, okay, this I think it actually was a plant this time. He was roasting some tubers, and he decided to try to do it in the microwave, and the microwave caught on fire.
It smelled delicious. My dad's probably emphasized this, that it smelled delicious. Like
and so the entire inside of the microwave was scorched. And, well, at the time, no, I don't play piano. I am not musical at all. But, you know, I did not like the fact that the microwave, see, my idea of cooking is I take it out of the fridge, I open the packaging, I put it in the microwave, and I press a button, and it heats it up, and then I'm done cooking supper. So the microwave is kind of essential, and now I have this scorched monstrosity in my kitchen. And to make it up to me, he bought a piano so that the girls could have piano lessons back when they were, like 7 and 5 years old. And that's how we got a digital piano. But yeah, I found if I really want something, the way to ask for it is after he's really screwed up something, and I say, hey, honey, I really want blank. And he's just screwed up royally. And so he's like, oh, okay, sure.
So do you bake, Minnie, whether, or
you?
Last thing I did was bake myself in the sun, and that was painful. So kind of stayed away from baking after that.
So we're all different. So when I bake, I do it in the bread mixer. I don't actually.
I fry,
myself, but she follows recipes.
Yeah.
Like she's the best recipe follower. Mark doesn't follow recipes at all. I think he actually doesn't even read all the words in the recipe.
He gets a general gist.
He looks at the picture.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll make that. And then next thing you know, there's a thing that looks like the picture.
No, it doesn't.
Not always taste like the picture.
It does not look like the picture. Half the time, you can't even tell that he was trying to make me think it was in the picture. Most of the time, it tastes really good, though.
If it looks good and he didn't follow a recipe, that means it tastes kind of funky. And if it looks
like something that throw up on your plate,
yeah, like something might have regurgitated onto your plate,
then it's usually pretty good.
It might taste nice.
Except there'll be too much salt.
Oh, bye, Miss Punia. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry, but bye. All right, so we have 1 minute left.
Yay, we survived!
All right, so
we will be back tomorrow morning, I think, and then hopefully after that, thank goodness, Meriwether will be able to take over us, and we can go back to hiding.
And you'll get to visit Minnesota with him. So, hope that's fun.
Thank you for watching, and let's see, what are the rest of our instructions? Okay. So we thank you for watching. We hit the end cross red button in the upper right side of the corner, and then we only have 3 more steps to do.
Will you sing for us?
Will I sing for you? What makes you think that I can sing? I can't sing, by the way. I can dance. My singing is even worse than my dancing, and my dancing is pretty bad.
She has fun when she dances, though.
I do have fun.
Okay. All
right.
It's 8 a.m. I'm gonna sign off. Bye, everyone. Have an amazing day.